Common prejudice against us pagans that I see very often is that we are just childish, primitive, we follow something just utterly irrational, and the fact that they are keeping these traditions alive is nothing more than some kind of rebellion, which was always crazy to me because I actually chose this religion because I started to study philosophy and seeing that many philosophers were pagan themselves, and they actually positioned that pagan belief and religion in their own system. It just seemed logical for me to follow this path, and even to this day, after more than a decade, I am still convinced that what I do can be argumented very well. If you look at the historical reality, I mean, it's pretty clear that we gave so much to European civilization. Philosophy is grounded in pagan cultures. Many of the major philosophical schools were outspokenly pagan, like the Stoics, Platonists, the Epicureans, even the Peripatetics to a certain sense. We clearly see that law was founded by Romans and by the Germans, poetry, art, and especially probably the most commonly mentioned folk customs originate in different pagan religions. And that has to be noted, not as an argument of superiority, because I don't think, and I fear most pagan would agree with me, that we actually don't believe that we are superior to other religions. And if you see this type of content again and again, pagans making videos about how this has pagan origin, that has descended, that's not necessarily because we want to prove that we are better than you. It's simply because we actually have to defend ourselves on a regular basis that we are not primitive, and it just gets too much after a certain point, especially when, again, as I said, at least in Europe, the whole foundation of culture and civilization is based in our religions. Perfect example is Plato, who became extremely important, not just for Christians, but generally for European science and thinking. Plato is often understood as, not being pagan and, being actually anti-pagan. And it is true that he criticized many of the pagan institutions and thinkers of his age, but he didn't criticize them because he wanted to go against the whole religion. Quite the opposite. If you read his dialogues, if you read these original dialogues, then what you see is it's really central for him to continue the pagan tradition and to believe in the gods. He actually argues that you have to believe in the gods. He also takes part and promotes pagan worship, libation and sacrifices and certain festivals, and he prays to the gods in his own dialogues, and he often actually spends whole books to redefine and explain pagan theological concepts. Simply put, if Plato is not pagan, then Thomas Aquinas is not Christian. I mean, if we understand that Thomas of Aquinas criticized many of his contemporaries and rationalized religion, but was still a pious Christian, and we have to accept that Plato was the same, just he was a Hellenic pagan. That is clear from all the texts that we have from him. So where does this prejudice come from? This actually comes from, not even from the church that much, although some of the medieval church texts already has the seed of these ideas, but actually this really comes from the 17th, 18th century. This is really just a Romantic Age fetish to imagine pagan religions as those very natural, savage-like cultures where basically everything that the simple man of the age couldn't enjoy existed. Relativism, complete hedonism, orgies, drunkenness, basically everything like that. And even to this day, for example, Hollywood pushes this narrative a lot with some of its movies and series. And if I have to draw a conclusion from this video, is that I don't understand why, instead of pointing at each other and making this very complicated thought processes of, was Aristotle actually in his private life and his mind pagan or not, why not instead we just focus and celebrate our common achievements? I mean, cultures change, that's something everybody admits, and I think we can also all admit that every major religion contributed to science and culture in some way or another. Especially if you're European, I think we should just celebrate the fact that we have so many folk customs and so many philosophical or other cultural elements that we can basically share and we can enjoy together. And if it's even not shared, an achievement is an achievement. So I admire any great thinker who who was Christian, Jewish or Muslim or Buddhist for that matter. And even if we don't know much about the other person's religion, at least we can be open-minded to new knowledge, and we can at least give a basic respect that we would expect others to give to us.